Our devotion today is from Exodus chapter 33. Today is the Friday after Thanksgiving. I hope you guys had a great time with your family and had a good Thanksgiving. Before we look at the passage today, remember today to be in prayer for Richard and Ruth Nicely. So Exodus chapter 33, as I was reading through this today, the thing that I think it was mostly just about for me was the presence of God. We've been talking about the Israelites. We've been reading about how God saved them from Egypt. And one of the main things that we've seen is that the Israelites experienced God's presence like no other nation had before. I mean, God is not just taking them away from Egypt. He is leading them through this wilderness. He is feeding them, providing them, going as that pillar of fire, the cloud that sets down around them. They've experienced God's presence in an incredible way. And yet we've also seen that there is this division between them and God. We saw that when they were worshiping at the mountain, yet they couldn't go too close to God because they'd be struck down. And they had this fear of God, and they realized it, that there was this separation. And unfortunately, in this chapter, we sort of see that separation between them and God grow even more. And it seems like the presence of God pulls back from them. And it really is tragic. This chapter is coming as sort of the ramifications of the last one, where we read about that sin with the golden calf. And man, God was ready to take them out in that last chapter. Remember, but Moses interceded and he pleaded for them, and God relented. And yet, in this chapter, we see that God's saying, I'm not going to be able to draw close to them, as close as I was, because if I do, I might wipe them out. They are sinful, and I am holy, and there's going to be a greater division here. And it's sad. I mean, we even see this part in the chapter where Moses sets up this tent, and he sets it up outside of the camp, and that's where he's going to have to go and meet with God. And the people they're kind of staying back in their doorways and worshiping God from where they're at. The separation grows because of their sinfulness and the holiness of God. And of course, when we read that, it always takes us back to what Christ did for us. And we've already talked about this before, because it's a reoccurring message. It's almost like Moses, how he went and he interceded for the people before God, that God would relent from destruction. Yet we know what Christ did for us was so much more than that. And he bridged that gap that we could never bridge ourselves. And he made it possible for us as sinners to be reunited with a holy God. I think one of the statements that Moses makes in this chapter, the one that stood out to me the most, and I believe it was around verse 16, is when God is telling them, I'm going to still send you up to the promised land. And Moses says, fine, but you have to go with us, because if you don't go with us, there's no point in us even going. He realizes their need for God. I mean, they could go into the promised land and they could take the land, and maybe they could have some success in that on their own, whatever. But he's saying it doesn't matter. If we go there and find all this stuff that we think we need, it's nothing without you. And I believe, obviously, that is certainly true for us. There are things that we can seek after, that we can make our life about, and we can try to achieve certain things, certain lifestyles, or just certain accomplishments. But if God isn't in it, if God doesn't go with us, what is the point? We have nothing. We need him so desperately. And of course, we know as Christians, God dwells in us. He goes with us everywhere, but we certainly can try and in our flesh push him to the side, push what he wants and his will to the side. We can quench the Holy Spirit, and we may get what we want in the flesh. But if God's not in it, what good is it? It's nothing. And I think that's the statement that this that Moses makes, that's what it reminds me of today. God, I need you. I need your presence. I need your blessing. Father, help me to seek your will in my life so that I can know that you go with me. Not just, don't let me seek what I want just so I can get what I want, but to seek your will and your presence. I am thankful for this passage today. If God spoke something to you, leave us a message on Facebook and on YouTube. God bless you guys.